Trung is 19 years old this year, and he has just passed the entrance exam to a college in Toi Hoa, Phu Yen. His family lives in the mountainous district of Song Hin, so moving to the city for school was a huge turning point in his life. Trung is quiet, introverted, gentle, and meticulous. He was raised by his grandparents since childhood, so he's more mature than his peers. Trung's mother passed away when he was in 4th grade, and his father works far away, only sending money home each month. On enrollment day, Trung's father couldn't return home, so he called and reminded him, "Focus on your studies, make sure to rent a place where there are other people around. If anything happens, call me right away." Trung simply replied, "Yes, Dad, don't worry." One of his former classmates introduced him to a boarding house near the school. The rent was cheap, and the landlord was said to be easygoing. When he arrived, Trung stood in front of the old row of rooms, with peeling brick walls and red-tiled corridors damp from the rain. There were only 5 rooms in total. He knocked on the first room and met a second-year student with neatly tied hair and a cheerful voice. "Looking for a room? The last one's still available. Number 4. Room 5 is now rented by an older lady to use as storage." Trung nodded and thanked her, then dragged his suitcase to the end of the row. Room number 4's door was slightly ajar. A woman around 50 opened the door, looked at Trung from head to toe, and said quietly, "Want to rent? Come in and take a look." The room was simple, old tile floors, slightly moldy walls, and a small window facing the banana garden behind the house. Trung asked softly, "Excuse me, did anyone live here before?" The woman turned away and replied flatly, "Yes, just moved out last week." "Do you know why they left?" "Probably didn't feel comfortable here." Trung hesitated a bit. The woman turned back, held out her hand. 500,000 a month. "If you're not staying, that's fine." He took out his wallet, paid 1 month in advance, and pulled his suitcase in. His first night there, Trung couldn't sleep. It was drizzling outside, and the sounds of insects in the banana grove were unfamiliar and gave him chills. Around 2 a.m., just as he was dozing off, there was a knock on the door. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, very soft. He opened his eyes and sat upright. Maybe someone passing by on their way to the hallway bathroom? Trung glanced at the clock, 2:14 a.m. The knocking stopped. He waited a few minutes. Silence. He stepped out and peeked through the door, no one in sight. Except, room 5's door was slightly open. Although he clearly remembered, it had been locked. Trung stood still, staring at the small gap in room 5's door. The darkness inside was thick, no light. He shivered slightly, gripping his door handle, trying to steady himself. He whispered, "Maybe it was just the wind." He closed the door, latched it from inside, and pulled the blanket over his head. But those knocks still echoed in his mind. The next morning, Trung woke up late. While washing his face outside, he saw the second-year student hanging laundry. Noticing his dazed expression, she laughed. "So, did you sleep well last night?" Trung replied softly, "It was okay, but hey, is room 5 really just a storage space?" She paused for a beat, then nodded. "Yeah, just for storing stuff. An old lady used to rent it, but it's been locked up for months now." "Why? Did you see something?" Trung shook his head. "No, I just thought someone was staying there." She smiled and waved it off. "You'll get used to it. These old rooms creak a lot when it rains." Trung stayed quiet, not mentioning what had happened. He figured maybe he was just overly sensitive. That night, he ate a boxed meal and studied late into the night. The clock struck 11:40 p.m. Outside, it was still drizzling. He turned off the lights and lay down. Around 1 a.m., as he was drifting off again, the knocking returned. 3 knocks, soft and even. This time, he sat up instantly. He didn't open the door. Didn't even pull the curtain. Trung just sat there silently, eyes fixed on the door gap. The knocking stopped. A few minutes later, he heard footsteps, very soft, walking past the hallway, stopping in front of room 5. Then, the sound of a creaky hinge. No voices. No sound of anyone going in. Just a dark figure gliding quickly past Trung's door, as if someone had just peered inside. Trung froze. He pulled the blanket up, gripping the set of keys hanging near the bed. His heart was pounding. He didn't sleep at all until morning. The next day, Trung decided to ask the landlady. It was nearly noon, and she was sweeping leaves in the backyard. Trung approached and asked softly, "Excuse me, does anyone go in or out of room 5? The woman looked up at him, expression blank. "No one. It's just, I thought I heard someone open the door last night." She set the broom down and said slowly, "Don't listen too much. You'll get used to it if you stay longer." Trung swallowed hard. "So, who stayed there before?" She didn't answer right away. She turned her face away and said one sentence before walking inside. "My daughter." From that morning on, the landlady's short reply echoed in Trung's mind. "My daughter." He was curious but didn't dare ask more. She was always distant, hard to talk to, her words cold and final. That afternoon, Trung came home from school early. The sky had cleared. Soft sunlight fell over the old red-tiled roofs. As he passed room 5, he glanced at the door, now shut. Not locked, not ajar. He noticed a small piece of paper sticking out from under the door, like a receipt hastily pushed out. That night, Trung tried to study, but couldn't focus. Around 10 p.m., he grabbed a mini flashlight and quietly stepped outside. The hallway was silent. He bent down and picked up the paper. On the crumpled note, written in faint, shaky ink were the words, "Not everyone here wants to be remembered." Trung's heart skipped. He looked around, no one. He stuffed the note into his pocket and pressed his ear to room 5's door. No sound, but a faint scent drifted out, the smell of old incense, mixed with mildew. Trung went back to his room. He tossed and turned all night. The next day, he went to a nearby bookstore and bought a new notebook. He decided to start documenting every strange thing that happened. His gut told him, this wasn't just, "You'll get used to it," like the landlady said. That night, around 2 a.m., Trung's light was off, curtains drawn. He wasn't asleep, lying on his side, eyes fixed on the door. The knocking came again, slower this time, heavier. 3 knocks. He didn't move, held his breath, heart pounding. Seconds later, footsteps passed by his door, as if someone was walking barefoot. Wet with rain, he slowly sat up and peeked through the gap. Moonlight from the yard slanted into the hallway. Room 5's door was slightly open, just enough for the light to spill in. Trung held his breath. Inside, he saw a figure standing with her back turned, long hair draping over her shoulders. Wearing a white shirt, no lights, no sound, but the figure stood perfectly still. Just stood, unmoving. Trung backed away and slammed his door shut. His hands were trembling. At that moment, one question echoed in his mind. Is the landlady's daughter still alive? The next morning, Trung was exhausted from another sleepless night. Dark circles under his eyes. His head felt like it was spinning. He wore a mask and took a walk around the neighborhood to clear his mind. Then decided to go see the second-year student at the front room. She was sitting outside, washing clothes in a small basin. Trung approached and gently greeted. "Excuse me, can I ask you something?" She looked up and nodded. "What's wrong? You look kind of out of it." Trung hesitated for a few seconds, then asked, "Do you know who used to stay in room 5? She paused. Her hands stopped scrubbing. She looked around, then motioned for him to sit on a plastic stool nearby. "Has someone told you something?" "Just, the landlady said it was her daughter." She sighed and lowered her voice. "Yeah, it was her daughter. Her name was Trin. Everyone here liked her, sweet girl. Always smiling. Then suddenly one day, she dropped out of school. And I saw an ambulance come take her away. No one ever mentioned her after that. But the strange part is, Trin lived in room 5. It's been locked ever since. Anyone who asks gets the same answer from the landlady. Didn't feel comfortable." Trung sat there, stunned. "Do you know if Trin passed away?" She nodded slowly, as if afraid someone might overhear. "I heard from the girls who lived here before. Trin hanged herself in that room. That night it was raining heavily, just like these days. By the time they found her, it was too late." Trung felt a chill run down his spine. He recalled the sound of barefoot footsteps, remembered the white figure standing with its back turned in the darkness. The girl looked at Trung for a moment, then asked quietly, "Did you see something?" Trung didn't reply. He only nodded, slowly. She gripped her sleeve tightly, her voice low. "If you saw it, don't stay too long. The room you're in, Trin used to sit there a lot. She liked it because the window looked out onto the banana garden. She said, standing there, you could see the whole sky. It sounds harmless, but people say, whenever she felt sad at night, she'd stand there alone. Trung felt a chill run down his spine. The window in his room really did face the banana garden. And on his first night, he had seen a shadow flickering outside. He stood up, thanked her, and walked back to his room. She called after him, "Trung, if you ever hear 3 knocks, don't open the door, okay? No matter who it is, don't open it." Trung turned back and nodded. His face had gone pale. That night, Trung sat by the window, staring out at the pitch-black garden. No lights, only the sound of insects buzzing. He whispered to himself, "I need to know what she wants, if it really is Trin." He picked up a pen and wrote in his notebook, "If you're out there, what do you want me to do?" He left the notebook open on the desk and turned off the light to sleep. Around 3 a.m., Trung opened his eyes, feeling like someone had just passed through the room. He sat up and turned on the light. The notebook on his desk was open to a different page, even though he remembered closing it. On the page was a scribbled line of smudged ink, as if written in a hurry with a wet pen. "Stop looking at the window. The person standing there isn't me." The next morning, Trung woke with a heavy heart. He looked at the notebook still open on the desk. The handwriting jagged and rushed, as though someone had written it in the dark. The line, "The person standing there isn't me," was still damp. The ink slightly blurred. He stuffed the notebook into his backpack and brought it with him to a nearby coffee shop. Sitting in a quiet corner, he flipped back through all the pages he had written, tracking every night with knocks, shadows, and door movements. All of them happened between 2 and 3 a.m. He muttered, "If it's not Trin, then who is it? I clearly saw a girl, long hair, white shirt." He took out his phone and searched keywords like Toi Wa student accident, missing near school, and eventually found a news article from 4 years ago. A first-year student named Nguyen Thao Mai from Con Wa was reported missing after moving into a boarding house near the college. No note left behind, no luggage missing, no trace found. He scrolled down. The photo of the missing girl sent a chill down his spine. Long hair over her shoulders, slim figure, wearing a white jacket. He stared at the photo. "It's not Trin, could it be her?" That night, Trung returned early and turned off the lights at 10 p.m. He placed the notebook on the desk, opened to a blank page, with a pen lying on top. He quickly scribbled, "If you're Thou Mai, what do you want to say?" Then lay down and closed his eyes. He didn't sleep, just pretended. 2:12 a.m., 3 knocks again, but this time, not on Trung's door. The sound came from room 5. 3 knocks. Pause. Then 3 more. Trung's hands trembled as he quietly stepped out and cracked open his door. Under the faint light at the end of the hallway, room 5's door was slightly ajar, as always. But this time, no one was inside. Trung gathered his courage and slowly approached. His heartbeat pounded in his chest. He reached the door and gently pushed. It opened silently. Inside, pitch black, the smell of damp, stale air hit him immediately. Trung took a small flashlight from his pocket and turned it on. Nothing unusual, just an old rolled-up mattress in the corner. A few dusty clothes hanging on nails. He stepped inside. The tile floor was uneven and ice-cold. On the wall opposite the door, Trung shined his light and froze. There were faint, messy charcoal drawings, almost erased by time, but still visible. A figure standing with its back turned, long hair falling past the shoulders. And beside it, a line carved into the wall with fingernails. I heard the knocking first, but I opened the door. Trung immediately backed out. He slammed the door shut and rushed back to his room, heart pounding wildly. When he entered, he saw his notebook on the desk. Another line had been added, not by him. "If she knocks again, don't let me answer." Trung sat for hours, eyes fixed on that final line. "If she knocks again, don't let me answer." He felt everything was building towards something. A truth no one was speaking aloud, but one that echoed in every gust of wind, every silent footstep at night. The next night, Trung decided not to sleep. He prepared his phone with the recorder turned on, flashlight in hand, notebook ready. Then he sat at the edge of his bed, eyes fixed on the old wooden door. 1:52 a.m. Wind rustled faintly through the banana trees. 1:58 a.m. He heard it, slippers shuffling across the tiles. Slow, heavy. Then they stopped. 3 knocks. This time, not soft, someone was hitting with their palm, demanding entry, like they were used to it. Trung said nothing, didn't move. The knocking stopped. A few seconds later, a young girl's voice whispered just outside the door, soft and almost pleading, "Sister Trin, open the door for me. I'm cold." Trung froze. He sat motionless, goosebumps all over. The voice wasn't familiar, but it repeated, more desperate now. "Please, sis, open up. I'm cold, I'm lost." Then a hand slammed hard on the door. This time it wasn't 3 knocks, it was constant. Frantic, panicked, begging. Trung jumped up, but he didn't open it. He took out his phone, spoke softly into the microphone. "If you're really still stuck here, tell me what you need. Is Trin here with you?" The room went dead silent. Even the rain outside seemed to stop. Then came a sound, not from the door, but from directly behind Trung, by the window. Breathing, light, long, very close. Trung spun around. Through the sheer curtain, a faint female face was pressed against the glass, deep black eyes. Soaked hair dripping with rain. Expressionless. Silent. Just staring. Trung stumbled back, hands trembling. He yanked the curtain closed. But even then, the face was still faintly visible behind the fabric. Even with the lights off, he sank to the floor, clutching his head. He understood now. One spirit keeps knocking, trying to get in. And one, once opened the door, and could never leave. If he answers next time, would it be his turn? That afternoon, after class, Trung didn't return to his boarding room like usual. He took a bus to the old school library where Trin once studied, according to the student he had talked to. It took nearly an hour of searching before he finally got to speak with an older librarian. Trung leaned in and softly asked, "Excuse me, may I ask if there was ever a student named Nguyen T. Trin here?" "Around 3 years ago?" The older woman frowned, trying to recall, then flipped through an old registry and nodded. "Yes, tourism department, enrolled in 2019, dropped out suddenly at the end of 2020. May I ask one more thing? Was there ever anyone who studied with Trin that went missing? Or something strange happened?" She looked at Trung for a long moment, eyes cautious, then slowly replied, "I remember, when Trin dropped out, there were rumors she had a close friend from her hometown. I think the name was Mai or Mai Lin, something like that. They lived in the same boarding house. One of them went missing, and a few weeks later, the other committed suicide." Trung's heart sank. So, the one went missing first. Then Trin. Yes, I can't remember clearly, but it really happened. At first, people thought Trin was just depressed. But later, everyone found it strange. Trung bowed to thank her, then left the library with a mind in turmoil. By the time he returned to the boarding house, the sky had gone dark. He walked slowly down the hallway, eyes glancing toward room 5. The door was still closed, still just as old and worn. But when he opened the door to his own room, there was new handwriting in the notebook on the desk. "She knocked first. I thought she was someone I knew. But she wasn't. Now I don't know who's going to knock next." Trung sank into the chair. The handwriting was messy, the ink slightly smeared. Panic and despair seeped through every word. He exhaled slowly, then wrote, "If you're still here, please help me. I don't want anyone else knocking. I don't want anyone else answering." He left the notebook there, then locked his door tightly. That night, he tried to sleep early, but in the middle of the night, he woke up like clockwork. 2:03 a.m. No knocking, no footsteps, only dragging, a sound like something heavy being dragged across the hallway tiles. The cold screech of stone scraping against stone. Trung sat up instantly. He quietly stepped to the door and peeked through the crack. Room 5's door was wide open. Inside, pitch black, but this time, Trung saw a white figure crawling out of the room, hands on the floor. Long hair covering its face. Dragging, bit by bit, slowly. No legs, only an upper body. Dragging itself, straight toward Trung's room. He slammed the door shut, locked the bolt, and backed up against the wall. The dragging stopped right outside. No knocking, no calling, only the sound of raspy, shallow breathing, like it came from a torn throat. Then, a fingernail tapped the door. Once, twice, 3 times. Slow, even. Then it repeated. Again, and again. The next morning, Trung woke up late, his mind foggy. body aching like he'd just survived a high fever. He glanced at the notebook. Still there, no new writing. That whole day, he didn't leave the room. Curtains drawn, only a soft yellow light on to stay alert. He thought long and hard, then made a decision. He had to go back into room 5. But this time, not during the day. It had to be at night, during the familiar knocking hour. And he would stay past 3 a.m. He prepared everything early. A flashlight, the notebook, a small prayer bead bracelet his mother sent from home, a pack of salt, and a single white candle. Around 1:45 a.m., Trung opened his door. The hallway was quiet, except for the steady patter of drizzle on the tin roof. He walked straight to room 5. His hand touched the doorknob, ice cold. But this time, it wasn't locked. He pushed, the door creaked open. The room was just as dark as before. Trung didn't use the flashlight. Instead, he lit the candle, its dim glow just enough to see. Nothing new. Cracked brick walls, peeling plaster, the rolled-up mattress still in the corner. Trung sat down in the middle of the room. The musty smell and faint scent of old incense lingered in the air. He opened his notebook on his lap and wrote, "I don't want this cycle to continue. If anyone is still listening, please tell me, who was the first to knock?" A breeze slipped in through the cracked window. The tin roof creaked, like footsteps above. Trung glanced around, the candlelight flickering. 2:10 a.m. He sat still, gripping the prayer beads tightly. Then, a cold gust blew straight against the back of his neck. The window rattled, then burst open. The candlelight wavered, almost died. A female voice rose behind him, hoarse, soft as the wind. "I knocked because I heard someone call. I thought it was a friend. But the friend wasn't a friend anymore." Trung spun around. No one there. Only the candle casting a flickering shadow of a girl with long hair, standing in the far corner, where the light didn't reach. Trung's voice trembled. "Are you, Trin?" The girl didn't nod, didn't shake her head. She took one step toward Trung. Her heels didn't touch the floor. Her hair covered half her face. Her voice was low. "I don't remember, only the knocking. Every time someone new comes, I hear it again. I think it's me. But no one is ever the same. Knock, then open, knock, then vanish." Trung breathed hard. "Do you want to be free?" The girl raised her head. Her eyes were hollow, dark, tears dripping like rain. "I don't know who I am anymore. I'm only afraid that if I answer again, the next person will become me." Suddenly, the candle went out. The room plunged into darkness. Knocking echoed behind Trung. 3 knocks, then 3 more, not outside the door, but inside room 5. He clenched his fists and shouted, "I'm not answering. I'm not the next one." Silence. Then, a faint female voice, as if from inside the opposite wall. "Next time, if it's not you, it'll be the new one." 2 days later, the boarding house was livelier. Someone new had moved in. A young man, looked younger than Trung, wore glasses, skinny, with a kind face. He moved into room 6, the one on the opposite side of room 5. From his window, Trung watched the boy lugging his suitcase, greeting the landlady. She only nodded, her voice cold as always. "That room's been empty since Tet. If you want it, take it, don't ask too many questions." Trung sighed, leaning on the doorframe. That night, he couldn't sleep. He wrote a few lines in his notebook. "A new one has arrived. If he hears the knock, will he open it?" Trung knew this loop wouldn't end on its own. It just passed from one person to the next. That night, 2 a.m., no knocks on Trung's door. But from the wall beside him, room 6, he clearly heard the soft creak of a door opening. Then the puzzled voice of the newcomer. "Hello, who's there?" Trung jolted upright, his heart pounded in his chest. 1 second of silence. Then, knocking, from the other side of the wall. 3 sharp knocks. So close. It felt like they were right by Trung's ear. Trung held his head in his hands, breathing hard. If nothing was done, the other boy would gradually hear the knocking every night, and eventually, he'd respond completely. And then, it would be Trung's turn. The next morning, Trung took the initiative to start a conversation. The boy's name was Dewey, a freshman, newly transferred from Binh Thuan. Dewey smiled warmly, holding a cup of coffee in his hand. "How long have you been staying here? This room seems great, nice and quiet. The last night, I heard someone knock 3 times on my door. but no one was there. Trung said nothing, eyes fixed, unblinking. Dewey chuckled softly. Probably just wind or mice. Right? Trung answered faintly, his voice barely steady. It wasn't the wind. Dewey gave an awkward smile, thinking Trung was joking, but Trung didn't smile. That afternoon, he stood alone in front of room 5. Looking at the old, peeling door, he whispered, "If Trin is still here, if Mai is still here, please, don't look for someone new. Let it stop. I'm begging you." A breeze swept through the hallway. No reply. That night, around 2:10 a.m., Trung didn't hear knocking. He heard crying, the sound of a girl sobbing, coming from Dai's room. Trung sat up straight, pressed his ear against the wall. Dewey was speaking, softly, unclearly, but Trung was sure he was alone in the room. "It's okay. I'm not scared. You're Trin, right?" Trung jolted. Then came a loud thud. A startled shout. Trung couldn't take it anymore. He ran over and pounded on Dai's door. "Dewey, open up. What's going on?" No answer. He stepped back and peeked through the crack in the door. Inside, Dewey was collapsed on the floor, clutching his head, face drained of color. Trung banged louder. "Dewey, can you hear me? What happened?" Finally, Dewey muttered, lips trembling. "She didn't have eyes." Trung went cold. That night was the last anyone saw Dewey. He left the boarding house. Didn't take his luggage. Told no one. He simply disappeared. The landlady just shrugged. Probably just students scaring each other. Nothing strange in this place. But Trung knew. The loop had started with Dewey. And Dewey had seen the thing Trung had been avoiding. That whole day, Trung didn't leave his room. He went back through all the entries in his notebook, piecing everything together. The knocking started from the empty room. A white figure repeated the same motion, searching for someone to respond. One person once answered, and never escaped. Trung knew. There was only one thing left to do. That night, he returned to room 5. This time, he brought with him an old ID photo he'd found tucked behind the rolled-up mattress, a girl in a student uniform. Long hair loose, one side of her face blurred. Below the photo, messy handwriting read, "Thou my 2019. Trung sat in the middle of the room and lit a small candle. He didn't write anything, didn't say anything, just placed the photo in the center of the floor. 2:01 a.m. The room grew colder. Wind hissed softly through the cracked window. The back door creaked open. And then, Trung heard footsteps. Not dragging, but soft, human steps. He didn't turn around, just spoke calmly. "If you're still here, Trin is gone. Dewey is gone too. Only you are repeating this. You're not the next one to knock. And no one needs to answer anymore." The photo on the floor trembled slightly. The candle flickered. A whisper rose, right next to Trung's ear. "Number 1 came to take me home. I'm scared of the dark. I don't want to stay here." Trung closed his eyes. "I know, but this isn't your home anymore. If you still remember the way back, go. The door is open. This time, I won't open it for you. You have to walk out on your own." A long moment passed. No more sounds. The candle didn't flicker out. It simply faded, as if the wind gently took it. Trung opened his eyes. The photo was gone. The wall corner where the claw marks once were, now clean. Room 5, silent, as if no one had ever lived there. Trung slowly stood up, bowed his head. No one answered, but there was nothing left to fear. He stepped out and gently closed the door behind him. For the first time since moving in, he saw the hallway softly lit by moonlight falling from the edge of the roof. No more knocking, no more breathing, just a quiet night. At last,